Okay, so my name is Renee Huang. I'm the founder of Wild Women Tribe and the host of Ignite podcast. I'm here broadcasting on Zoom. This is our second week of our very spontaneous Zoom and close calls. I'm from Park City, and Kathy Smith is also here in Park City. I'm so excited to welcome my neighbor and dear friend and mentor. And of course, we all know her as kind of the OG, the original fitness wellness guru. So I'm really pleased to have you on today, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, this isn't crazy times right now and what we're going through. So to have this kind of technology when we're all feeling separate and disconnected from everybody, to connect like this is quite remarkable. So thank you for doing it.
Well, it's funny, we're all using this terminology, social distancing, and I feel almost like I'm more connected with people, friends and neighbors and people I don't know, even more so now. So I say we're socially distant, but we're virtually connected. So I am really excited to jump into this platform and this space, and to see people and meet people who are all joined and aligned by the same common thread. So today, our common thread, what we're going to really explore is hope and positivity during times of uncertainty. And our format is we will kind of be smushing together two Wild Women Tribe experiences. One of them is a wander, which typically we take women outdoors and experience connection outdoors. Another thing that we've done over the past year, and you've been involved in, Kathy, is our podcast, the Ignite podcast. So we're really pushing those together today, having a connective experience, and also listening and hearing some wisdom from you and your life. So I wanted to turn the microphone over to you to lead us in a guided breathwork session. You're going to keep it kind of short today, but you just wanted to help people get grounded and give them an illustration of what they can do day to day to help them feel connected to themselves. And then we'll move into a bit of discussion, you and I, about your background, and then we'll open it up for Q&A and further discussion with everyone on the call.
Okay, perfect. Well, one of the things, you guys, I love this technique. I call it the BLT, breathing listening technique. And I like it because it's short and you can use it not only as your wake up kind of meditation, connect to the environment around you, but you can also use it throughout the day, especially if you feel your head spinning, if you starting to feel anxious or starting to feel depressed or bored, or any of the things that we go through, all the emotions we go through on any day and on any given day, but especially now. And this is a way to snap you right back into the present time, present tense, because, we talk about we cannot control everything that happens around us, but we can control how we view it or how we deal with it. And this is one of the techniques that I find that just helps me get back in control. So if everybody's ready, just find, whatever's comfortable in your body. I'm going to have you don't have to close your eyes. I find it's a little easier if you do close your eyes. And again, this is only going to be about a 3-minute type of exercise. So make sure that everything's loose, that your hands aren't crossed, your legs aren't crossed, everything's kind of open, just receptive. And exhale. Everybody just exhale together. And now on a count of 4, inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. And again, inhale. And exhale. Now I'll be setting a pace, but whatever's comfortable, let's inhale again. Whatever comfortable for you, go to your breathing pattern. And we're just exhaling evenly, inhaling, and then exhaling. Now on your next inhale, take it to the top, inhaling 4, and hold your breath and listen and name a sound around you, a sound. I hear the refrigerator. And now exhale. And again, inhale. Hold your breath. Listen. And then name a sound. I heard the bing on my computer. And exhale. We're going to go for 4 more rounds like that. Inhale. At the top of the inhale, hold, listen, and try to find another sound that you didn't hear before. And exhale. And again, inhale, hold, listen, and exhale. Each time you're going to search for a different sound. Inhale, go a little deeper, listen a little more attentively. At the top, hold and listen. And exhale. And this will be the very last time. On the top of the inhale, hold your breath, listen, and see if you can hear your heartbeat. And exhale. Take a moment just to be in that place, to surrender, to being very present. And when you feel like it, and the time's right for you, just open your eyes and come back into the moment. And just maybe take a clearing breath. And what I love about this technique, if you think about where we were 3 minutes ago and where you are right now in your space around you, with the people around you, this technique forces you to just get here, right now. And that's part of the thing I want to talk about today, because as we go through everything we go through in life, without this, virus and the quarantine and everything else going on, we tend to go like this. Oh my God, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? And then I'm going to do this and this is going to happen. And by the end of it, we have worried ourselves into sickness, into an immune system that is compromised, and into a stress level that we have control. As I said, we don't have control about everything else maybe around us, but we have control right now of how this experience feels. And for me, the more I can get back into, when I walk out, I do this technique every morning. I get up, I have my ritual, which we'll talk about rituals because I'm a big believer in them. I make my tea, I put on my essential oils, I take my tea, I take my cup, I feel the warmth, I step outside, even in these cold days, and I listen, and I hear birds, and I feel sunlight. And for those 2 minutes, at that point, I'm right here. And then my day begins. So that's my little technique, and I hope you guys got something from it.
I love that. It was interesting as you were talking and challenging me to listen. My kids are upstairs and, they're supposed to be doing homework. And I've told them I'm on a podcast for an hour, so be quiet. There's not a lot of sound, but it's interesting, even within your own body, you can hear like the blood rushing through your veins, or you can hear, like you were saying, the sound of your own heartbeat. And it's a really interesting experience to realize, like, that the experience around you with you.
Yeah, I know if are open, but people, you really realize how you're disconnected. Like people will hear, I heard, I'm not saying a pin drop, but I'll be in a room and I'll think, no, nobody heard things that I didn't hear. And there'll be 10 other things that people say, oh, and I go, oh, I didn't hear that. So I don't know. I'm just curious. Did anybody in their household hear anything unique that you want to share for another minute or two to show us? Anything happening in your world? I think somebody's walking outdoors. I saw somebody, but
He was walking.
anybody? I see Anne Marie. I see Brittany. Any sounds that caught your attention?
I heard there's a lot of construction going around my house right now, but I could hear the cement truck, you know, how it goes around and around and around. I have a window open and I could hear that cement truck going round and round. So I didn't hear it earlier with the window open until now. So that was a unique sound that I haven't heard all day today till now.
Got it. What about you, Anne Marie? Anything happening on your end?
I had to unmute. Hi. You know what? It's funny that you said or guided us through this. It's the one thing I cannot do is meditate. Like I can't. And even though I do all your workouts, I can't even do your yoga workout. So that says a lot. But I'll tell you, the 3 minutes, I'm up in my home office and I could really do this. So that's not answering your question directly, but I could really do it. First, I heard a siren, and then I heard some kids laughing outdoors, which I think is so great. I live
that's great.
So it was just really great to hear, obviously, a siren, because I do live in the city of Toronto, so we hear those all the time on a busy street. But then I heard a child or a couple of kids laughing outdoors, and you know what? That made me smile.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. I see other people's names. I don't see your faces, but if Joelle and Laura, I mean, I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. Maybe one more person, anybody hear something that they want to share?
Hi, this is Judy. I am walking. I hope I wasn't distracting anybody.
No, it was good. I thought there's a multitasker for you.
Right? I know. I've been in the house all day, so I had to get out. What I just heard was the breeze, which I guess I really never noticed that before. I heard the breeze as I'm walking.
That's good. That's good. I mean, that's great. And anyway, then we can wrap because I know we want to move on. But those are the things. It's just getting present and what you start to become aware of your environment. Anyway, I'll throw it back to you, Renee. And that's my little process.
Well, it was interesting because as you were talking, I was wondering, your life has spanned so many amazing milestones of creation in the workout and fitness sphere, and you strike me just from knowing you personally as being so positive and full of hope and really uplifting in your life and with people around you. I wanted to really start with maybe going back to when you were beginning in the industry, and what have you always been like this? Did you have hardships in your life early on that you were forced to find being present and find positivity?
Well, yeah, great question. Anybody that has followed my career, and a lot of people, you know, that don't know, I'll just quickly tell you a little backstory, because honestly, the way that I got into fitness was through a lot of tragedy that happened in my life. And I lost my dad when I was 17 years old. He had a heart attack. I was a senior in high school, and 3 days before my high school graduation, I got the call to go to the hospital. By the time I had gotten there, he had passed away. And so he was my bedrock. He was, you know, just, I so admired my dad, and it turned my world upside down. But not only it was about 2 short years later that my mom then was killed in a plane crash. So between losing my dad and then losing my mom at the age of 19, close to 20, I was then orphaned, and it was a crazy time in my life. And it was a time in U.S. history where it was the Vietnam War. We were involved in civil rights, women's rights, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, because it was Woodstock. It was a time when, you know, young people were putting on their bell-bottom blue jeans and their flower power t-shirts and, you know, listening to the great 70s rock music. And there I was orphaned. And so this is where this took me down this journey of how do you go through something and find, and I don't even want to say the silver lining. I don't want to minimize, not like I'm minimizing what happened to my parents and not minimizing what's happening now. I think we all have to acknowledge people are going through a rough time. I mean, the people are getting sick. There are some people are dying. But even on top of that, people are losing jobs. Every day you read the newspaper and they're being impacted financially, and mentally and emotionally. So it is a hard time. And I think we're going to get into this. I don't want to minimize by just saying, oh, let's look at the silver lining of all of this, without acknowledging, just like with my parents, I want to acknowledge that was hard. And what I'm going to tell you right now, it wasn't like, oh, okay, I had a positive thought and it was like gone. I mourned the death of my parents. You know, it's a process, but it was the process. What I want to say is that traumatic experience took me down this path of, how do we explain life? How do we explain that there is always going to be the dark side and the light side? And through looking at what the lessons that come out of each of these experiences, the lessons. So with my mom and dad, where I went to is, in that particular situation, and I'll get off of that because I know that that's not what the topic is right now, but what I got out of it, really quickly, was that life, there is life, there's birth, there's living, there's death. That is the cycle of life. And in Buddhism, there is which I then started studying world religions. I'm a big believer. I'm a faith-based, whatever your faith is, but this idea of learning the teachings, and I don't care if it's Catholicism or Mormon, if you're Mormon or Christian or Jewish, but I was fascinated by Eastern philosophies, and especially Buddhism, because there's this idea of just non-judgment, that you get into things and things will happen, and how do you just stay present, kind of like we were staying present a moment ago. How do you stay present in all this? Acknowledge that whatever's happening, but not turn it into doomsday, that we are going to go through this. It'll be a challenge. We will get through it. Our world will change because of it. As individuals, we will change, and we will pass through this. And I think that's the growth and the gift that my parents gave me, is that we are all very resilient, and that there is a time to grieve, and there's a time to be in that, and then there's a time to be happy, and there's a time to be joyful, and they can all be mixed together. I can be grieving about my parents and still be joyful. They're not two separate, one's not over here, and it's not like I can't be joyful again until I finish grieving my parents 10 years from. No, there's a mix. And to this day, 40 years later or whatever, there's still a place where, oh, mom and dad, but it's joyful that I have them there in my heart. And I think I want to get into lessons. I'm learning lots of lessons in this process we're going through. So anyway, I'll throw it back to you, Renee. And feel free, because I am a talker, to cut me off at any time.
Well, I love listening to you go through the whole thought pattern of, just because I'm happy doesn't mean I also have the balance of grief. And I like hearing that you are able to usher those both in, because you recognize that they can't exist without the other. What about as a mom? I mean, I know in this climate, one of your daughters, at least, I saw Perry earlier, but I know Kate just received some news that she has been moving through. How, as a mom, do you help counsel your girls?
Well, it's funny, and I'm depending on who's listening, right? We all have children at different ages. So how you usher a 28 and a 30-year-old is different than obviously younger children. But I think the thing is, because I raised my girls with this philosophy that we're talking about through modeling, I think modeling is so important. When it comes to fitness, I talk about this all the time. I'm never one as a mother that was like, you got to go and, I never use words like you have to, or it was just, I made fitness fun. You want to go on a hike? I'm going to make up some peanut butter and chocolate bars. Let's go, and let's, we'll play a game on the way, whatever it might be, whatever it was to encourage it, never as a, discipline. You have to do this or you're going to gain weight, especially for those words never crossed my lips, and especially for teenage girls. But as and so they got addicted to, as I am, to the good feeling of moving your body. But the same way with breath. I mean, I started teaching when my one daughter, Kate, who went to the Olympics in 2016. She was, and when we were down in Rio for that, the New York Times called and did an article on the two of us. And they asked Kate, what's the one thing that you learned from your mom? And I'm thinking she's going to say something about, oh, I learned, some fitness thing, because she's at the Olympics. And she goes, you know what I learned from my mom? Two things. One is how to breathe, because every single race, before I go to every single race, she'd started teaching me. She'd walk me down to the beach and she'd say, okay, start, taking these breaths. And she'd say, now you've done the work, go out and have some fun. And it's sort of like, have fun with what you're doing and stay in your breath. And so the technique we're listening, as simple as it seems, I practice this every day. And when you practice it 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it becomes your life. And this is, my girls now laugh because they're now really using this breath work. So having said that, Kate, the Olympics got canceled and Kate was devastated. This is about 4 days ago or last week sometime. True to form, you go through the grieving. You're working for something your entire 4 years. It's now gone. You're not going to discount like, oh, we're just going to be positive about that. She called me 24 hours later, said, Mom, crying for 24 hours really makes you feel better. And, and part of it is letting kids and letting all of us have our emotion. I mean, I'm a big one, like when somebody says, oh, don't cry, I'm thinking, don't cry about something. I'm thinking, no, crying, if that's what you're feeling, get it out, cry, feel bad, let it go. And now let's look at what happens on the other side of crying or grief. And now let's go. And the next day she wrote a great post on her Instagram of what she's learned, how to put things in perspective, how to not be, as she's worried about her Olympics and somebody else is worried about their job and somebody else is worried about such and such. We all have our things we're worried about. And now this collective, like even the collective worry can bring us together to say, okay, we're all sharing these mixed emotions for different things. And, whatever yours is the biggest thing in your life. And let's come together and realize and have empathy for one another. But honestly, I mean, what I would love on this program too, if anybody, because I don't necessarily want it to necessarily be a monologue of my stuff, I would like to hear if anybody else is having, and only if you want to share, but if anything is, if any of what I'm saying is hitting a chord or something that also you might be struggling with right now, if anybody's struggling with something, that they're stuck, they're depressed, they're whatever, and they need to punch out of it, feel free to raise your hand. I don't know how you do that. If
you want to turn your microphones on and turn your cameras on, we can have people raise their hands if they have something to say or something to share. I think it's interesting to hear how to move from when you're in that rut and when you're going through something. How do you move through that then? Because, we've heard that it's important to process grief, and it's important to hear and validate your emotions. But then what are the next steps or practices or tools that we can use to then move on the pathway toward positivity?
Okay, well, I mean, I got a hand.
Marie, I see a hand. You have to unmute here. Let me help you.
There, I'm unmuted. And I'm trying to peel off my nail polish, which is terrible. So sorry, that's why I keep looking down. I never do my nails. That's one thing I don't do. I clean everything else, but not my nails. So I'm trying to peel it off. So I'm frustrated. Kathy, I loved what you said about allowing ourselves to feel the feelings and then move through it. I'm a recruiter and in the corporate world, and I've also been laid off from jobs because I used to be in the advertising world, and you know, it's very common to get laid off in my world. And I always tell people, and I suspect I'm going to be hearing from a lot of people, you know, in this kind of time frame, you know, when you get laid off from your job, it's not a fun thing. And I always say to people, it doesn't matter if it's business or it's money, or you don't like to be told you're not wanted. I get it. It's practical. But I always tell people, which is why I identified a lot with what you said, it's okay to cry. And I always tell men, especially, I have 3 boys, you know, it's okay to cry. Like, go for it, do it. Because I think we are, and one of the things that I'm not going to say I like about what's going on right now, but it's really hit me that everybody is going through the same thing. And I also very believe that, or I believe very much that it doesn't matter how much money you have, everything's relative. You know, the more money you have, the more you spend, the less you have, the less you spend. But right now, this virus doesn't know anything about anybody, and we are all in the same boat. And I do think it's really important that we acknowledge our feelings and feel our feelings. And as you have said, you know, I don't think you can move on until you do feel your feelings, is I guess what I'm saying in a long-winded way of what I just heard you say. Is it's not an easy thing to do, but I think if one thing this is teaching all of us is let's be more vulnerable. Doesn't mean that you can't move on, and come on, yeah, you got to buck up and move on. We all have to make money. I get that, but I've always, and I've told my boys, they're grown-ups now, it's okay to cry. You know, it's okay, guys, just because you're strong, athletic men, it's okay to cry. It's okay to say you're disappointed or whatever, you know, no matter how small or how large, it's okay.
Good one. Well, thanks. Thank you for sharing. Did you want to, I see, did Jody there? Do you want to? No, Jody's just there. Hey, Jody. Okay, well, anyway, yeah, no, I like that. And so Renee, you mentioned some techniques. I mean, just a couple of, let's say just 2 right now. Techniques for getting me through the day of moving through stuff. One, obviously, you know what I'm going to say, it's movement. And, you know, these ideas of 2 to 4 minute, quick, intense bouts of just getting, you know, whether it's just, you know, if I was standing right now, I don't want to go to camera, but it's just, you know, low knees for 15 seconds, high knees for 15 seconds, low knees for high knees for 15 seconds. I mean, you do 2 to 3 minutes of that, or the same thing with an upper body, add the upper body, because this really gets the circulation. So even like a kind of a jumping jack sort of thing, low, 15 seconds high, 2 minutes like that can change. We know that changing your physiology changes your psychology. And just that's a thing that, I mean, Tony Robbins kind of popularized this, but it's what we're talking about. What happens is that if I mean, the 2 things, and I'll just do it visually on camera. If I'm here, or if I'm, you know, like, and, you know, we, whenever I would go on stage, there's something called your power move before you go out. And Tony would do something, and you won't see my face, but it's just like, bam, bam, you know, it's like, bam, power move. And, you know, my power move was actually right here. And I would just have, you know, we would create a power. It was just like, this was my power move. And it was just, I rubbed these 2 fingers together, and it's sort of Pavlovian in the sense that as you condition yourself that this means I have my superpowers going right now. So, and it can be just, and when you start conditioning every day, and when I go on stage, if I just go like this, I just get chills throughout my entire body, because that's my superpower coming to life. But, you know, the idea of finding something big, bold, expressive. I'm big and like, you know, getting out, getting energy out of your body, and not just getting in the house. We can tend to get a little bit like, oh, I'm like this, and I'm exaggerating, but you know, I'm small, I'm here, I'm in my house, whatever. And as opposed to, and that's why put some music on. Like in the mornings, my daughter and I will just put like one song on. It's like da 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 da, and you're making your tea, and da 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 da, and da 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 da. You know, and then you sit down. Now, just imagine doing that. You know, a minute later, it's like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and work. Now, have those breaks throughout the day, especially. Oh, and then I'm going to tell you two more tricks. These two other tricks are something I learned on a podcast, you know, on my podcast that I do. But one is called, it's the number game. And this is slightly different than what you're talking about, Renee, but I just was thinking about it, so I'm going to throw it in. If you feel your mind going wacky on you, in that the world's going to come to an end, or what, all those sort of things, you feel like you're overthinking. There's studies on this, and they come out of Stanford. Your mind can only hold one thought at a time. It can't hold two thoughts in your mind at the same time. So if you go and you take a number between 10 and 100, and you just start to think of numbers. So if I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you know, da 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 da, and I go 78, 93, 54. 22. By the time I usually get to the fourth number, and you have to pick them, and it can't be single digits, it's between 10 and 100, and they're random. By the time you get to about the fourth number, the thought has, you've cut the thought pattern. And so now that, and then you go, okay, so then I've cut the, and then a minute later, the thought comes back, and you try it again. 24. And usually by the third time you try this technique, you've cut that thought pattern. You now are no longer thinking in that negative train of thought. And then the second way of doing, second thing I do is something called hashtag. If I do find myself going, again, wild with crazy ideas, there'll be hashtag doomsday, hashtag world's gonna end, hashtag, and you try to make them as silly as possible, because you'll make yourself laugh. Like hashtag.
You taught me this, and I've done it with my kids, and it is priceless. Because
Okay.
they're complaining about things, and you know, oh, my life is so bad, and I'll say like hashtag first world problems, right? And they'll just laugh because it just breaks them out of it. And I love that you're sharing techniques that really get us out of our own head and our own body, right? Because I think that's what a lot of this fear and anxiety and negativity can be about. I mean, you mentioned, obviously, we're in a time that is so uncertain, and it's not to discount them. We're not trying to bypass the reality of the situation, but we are trying to teach ourselves that we aren't a victim of our thoughts or our moods, right? And I love that being physical, like sometimes when you're in a bad mood, you don't automatically think, well, I'm going to get up and do some jumping jacks. But I love that physically moving the emotions through you is a way of processing in a positive way. How else do you find that you can develop these practices? Do you do them every day? Do you just have a list? Is it like your toolkit where you're like, okay, this is my toolkit of 3 things that I want to do, and you just draw upon them?
Well, I like habits. I have a saying, win the morning, win the day. And so, and I'm a big believer. And that is my unique personality, but I found that it's pretty much across the board, and that most people, when they start their morning off and they start it off and they feel positive and they feel in control and they check things off their list right away, that the rest of the day is just a little better. So typically it starts with, and I say, if you can get 4 out of 6 of these done, have your ritual, make your bed. as simple as that sounds, research shows that just the mere act of making the bed and getting organization, helps calm the nervous system. Next, for me, it's make some sort of ginger shot, tea, coffee, whatever your morning drink is. Make it obviously something, being healthy, that's not going to have sugar in it. I hope everybody on the call, we're not doing a nutrition thing today, but do not start your day with sugar. I'll leave it at that. We'll talk about it later. Have some green tea. If you have coffee, put some, MCT oils or something in it. But for me, it's green tea, matcha. I have my NutriBullet. I put in my matcha. I put in my collagen, usually marine collagen. I then, put in my coconut almond milk. A little hot water, blend it up, and I now just pour that, and I get my the small little things like my cup. I put my cup in the microwave, so I pull it out. My cup is warm. I pour the warm matcha, whatever. It's like life is good. It's funny. It's starting to see the beauty, the sensuality, the specialness, and treating yourself. Each of these things, like you're special, and the event is special. So getting back to BLT, I love each of these things. That's a 2-minute process for me. But each of them, the warmth of the cup, the smells, the touch, the drinking, then I walk outside and I do what I said. I immediately connect to the environment around me. It's called grounding, and you can do it. We're in winter right now, but it's nice winter. It's not super cold winter. I still go outside. And there's a bird, there's the crispness in the air. There is a twig that I'll notice. There's a little bunny rabbit that goes bouncing around my backyard. Whatever those things are, that's another minute. These are all very short things, but they're all very sensual. They're all very, and when I say sensual, I just mean dealing of the senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, taste. Make those first 10 minutes, get all of that in and start to appreciate it. And don't be going like this. Oh God, I'm making this. Oh my God, New York Times saying this. Oh my God, more people are, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And, and so now you've done those 10, it's taking those 10 minutes and making them your special 10 minutes. And then go into the other things that, of course, we have to read the newspaper. Of course, we have to, understand the news and everything. But don't make that the 24/7. I mean, it doesn't have to be 24/7. Take each of the things, make them unique, and you'll find that your day just gets to be a little bit more positive. I mean, and happy and whatever.
Yeah, so you set the tone, you win the morning, win the day, start with breath, start with positivity, and just noticing, right? Like that's what I'm hearing from you, using all your senses to just be present and be with yourself. I love that. So maybe we can ask some of our friends on the call if they want to unmute and put a video on, or if they want to share what their rituals are.
Or if anybody, or I'd like to, if anybody has a question, the other thing is, if anybody on the line has any questions in particular about, since, it looks like, we got about 20 minutes left, so we have some time, but if anybody has anything, and it can be, because I'd love to, since it is, a small group here and everything, if people want to know about fitness things, and even if they want to know, like, my butt's getting flabby, even though that's not it. But I mean, and those are obviously more vanity type things. But I do find that when we're around the house and stuff, that we have more time. We have more time to explore things that, as Anne Marie was saying, we have time now to, since we're disconnected, we can connect with other people, but we can explore new activities. Like we're doing a painting project. I have a Pilates reformer that I got delivered to my house, and I'm exploring more with Pilates now. So that I'm encouraging other people that if you haven't explored some movement pattern before, this could be a good time to, especially since there's so many Zoom classes around, but whether it's yoga or Pilates or belly dancing, or I'm doing, a friend of mine, sent me this hip hop video as a group, which we're learning this hip hop routine together. And it's, so I'm just wondering if there's any questions from people about fitness also.
Yeah, I saw Brittany jumped on. Did you have a question for Kathy, or you were just...
I was going to ask her if she had like an evening routine that she incorporates, that she does something every night, the same thing to unwind. Do you journal? Do you read? Like, what's your evening routine? Like, is there something in particular that you do every single night to finish out your evening? I'd love to hear what you do.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny you asked that question because winning the morning, as I talk about win the morning, and most people don't realize winning the morning starts the night before. So a good night's sleep sets you up for the next day. And that's why the evening routine is actually even more important than the morning routine. I have to say, and I'm going to tell you what mine is, but I've been more successful in my morning routine than I am in my evening routine. And I've keep developing and I keep working on my evening routine, but I find that I don't know if you call it my discipline, but there's just more variables in the evening for all of us. I mean, and it's like now it's a little different because we're all at home, but depending on if you're going out, okay, let me back up because it's a really good question. The funny thing, and I'm glad you're asking because I was thinking about this just a few days ago that I want to structure that a little bit more. And part of the reason why I'm saying it now is because I'm eating a little later now and it's not really working for me. And the reason why I'm eating later is because my daughter and I are getting out for hikes and we're going to avoid the crowds or to avoid people or whatever. We're going from about 5:30 to about 6:30, not getting home till maybe 7-ish, probably 7:15, then cooking. Which really like the cooking that we're doing. Lots of great recipes. Last night, a spaghetti squash with a veggie marinara arrabbiata sauce with all these great veggies on top of the spaghetti squash, and with a little Parmesan cheese, and really cooking. But now we're not really finishing eating till about 8:30ish, and again, it's just not quite working for me because then we have a little like I posted, I don't know if you guys saw them, but everybody's raving about these. So if you want this recipe, it's a protein oatmeal cookie type of thing. And it's just made, it's made with oatmeal and coconut, but it's just applesauce and 2 ripe bananas and with some walnuts, and they are to die for. There's no sugar in them. They're great. But we're doing all these other things that I normally wouldn't be doing. It's sort of throwing me off a little bit. But in general, what I do like, I am in a book club. I do like reading. With the podcast, I'm going to talk about this also because I have a podcast that's going to be released tomorrow on nasal breathing, and this guy out of London who wrote the book The Oxygen Advantage, and the importance of all the time, but especially now, to improve lung capacity and to improve immunity is breathing through your nose as opposed to your mouth. So, but whenever I do a podcast, a couple of them a month and that requires reading a book, doing the background research. I do a lot of that at night. And I think that I have a very busy with my career. And I, through the years, have always balanced my daytime and nighttime. So I haven't structured my life like most people, like you work from 9 to 5 and then you have whatever, especially since my kids are out of the house. I like to think of it like the 24-hour day, and my work can happen from 8 in the morning till 9 at night, depending what I'm doing. Because I like to carve out periods of the day where I can work out, where I can go skiing, where I can hike, where I can go to yoga classes. And so just like anybody who works at home, my whole thing is I just have to achieve something by the end of the day. It does. And so some of the stuff gets put into the evening hours. And it's not a problem because I'm a great sleeper, but I think the problem I'm having is giving you an exact answer because my thing is it's just kind of a little more fluid depending on what's happening that week, that day, and I'm just looking. I have, I work with Paige, and I'll make a commitment to her. So I've always needed in my life, you guys. I've I do a lot, but I've always needed an accountability coach, and accountability coach can be a friend or somebody I work with, but I have to state the words out loud. By tomorrow, I'm going to have such and such done, because I'm also a procrastinator because I love to have fun. I love to play. I love to get outdoors. And by doing that, I know that's on my checklist. So when 8 o'clock comes, it goes, okay, I have to listen to that podcast. I have to make corrections to the intro. I have to re-record the intro. And a lot of that happens in the nighttime. Anyway, I didn't answer.
We'll be your accountability coaches, Kathy, if you want to come up with a nice nighttime routine now that you're at home. We'll be the ones who hold you to it, so you can report back later.
Okay, that's it. Well, so this group right here, I will give you that we can email to everybody my nighttime routine.
Great. What about other people in the call? Do you guys have a routine, a nighttime routine or a morning routine that's getting you through the day?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hog, but I'm from a big family, so if you didn't raise your hand and ask, you didn't get. And I'm like kind of blown away that I'm having this face-to-face with you, Kathy. I'm gonna cry. You've changed my life so much. Anyways, I don't want to hog the call, but I do want to ask you. Okay, I've done something that I've never done before. I'm 2 days into keto plan.
Right.
And like, I have no trouble working out. I am totally a Kathy Smith runner to your Walk Fit tapes, which trained me to do 3 marathons, by the way. Anyhow, I have no trouble working out. Like, it's a thing for me. I have a routine. I did learn through training for marathons a million years ago. You do it in the morning before your day gets hijacked. So I'm on automatic pilot. But I have found, since pretty much working from home, I don't know if it's the mindset, like trying to not eat junk has been really hard. And so I decided, and my skin is very dry, that a friend of mine has been doing keto for a very long time and she loves it. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I'll tell you, I'm 2 days into it and I can't believe how different I feel, in a good way. I'm very tired, for sure, and she's told me that. But I think I heard a podcast of yours once that talked about keto, but I can't remember. So I know we have only a few minutes left, but I wanted to ask you your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, yeah, and we can also do a side little call if so we don't talk too much about diet, because we could do a whole thing on nutrition. Yes, keto. I have done many podcasts on keto, and as a matter of fact, if you want, shoot me your email. I mean, we have it, I think. So I mean, but anyway, we can post the 3 that right now I would recommend you listen to. But let me just say in general, keto is an amazing approach to eating when it's done right. So I think that you can use it to your advantage right now. And if you are feeling that clarity, it does help cut cravings. It helps cut cravings. It helps get you into your, learning how to metabolize fat for fuel instead of just your carbohydrates, which this is a cycle you're going through right now. And when you come out of that, you're going to have intense energy. I am talking in 2 weeks to a doctor that will be talking about intermittent fasting and keto dieting. And so the big broad stroke, yes, with the caveat, there's good keto and there's bad keto, and you don't want to get into all the studies show you just overdoing saturated fat and bacon and burgers and this. You can do a plant-based keto, and you can also do a healthy keto, but just watch out for overdoing it. Nothing's going to matter in the short term. 2 weeks, no biggie. 3 weeks, what keto's known for, you'll lose weight quickly, you'll get into a really good headspace. Maintaining it and what the long-term health benefits, especially as we age, excessive protein and excessive saturated fat is not a great thing for all of us. And so therefore it's that balancing act. And we can talk more about that even one-on-one. So if you want to have a phone call, I'll jump on with you.
God, like you're my Ringo Starr, my Paul McCartney. Whoever knows who Paul McCartney is, honestly, like I'm blown away. I feel like I'm blown away that I've had this opportunity to hear from all of you and Renee too.
Awesome.
But I don't want to, I've already hogged too much. So thank you.
No, you haven't hogged.
Thank you.
I do want to see if anyone else had a ritual that they share that's keeping them kind of steady during this time. Brittany?
Oh, did mine go off?
Oh,
Sorry.
I don't know.
I do have a good morning routine. I used to have a really good evening routine and did not have a morning routine. And then I flip-flopped and have been struggling with my evening. That's partly why I asked, because I'm with you. I have struggled, but I've really done a good morning routine. But for me, the very, very first thing when I wake up is a good stretch. I always stretch my muscles. Before I do anything, before I journal, meditate, I do lemon water. I warm up some water and put some fresh squeezed lemon in there and some peppermint. So before, I usually get my water on my tea kettle ready, and then I'll go and stretch, and then I'll pour my water, and then from there, depending on what my day looks like and work looks like, I'll go from there. But that's my normal for sure, is stretching and my lemon water. So those are my morning little rituals that I do every morning.
I love stretching. I love that.
One of the things I've gotten away from that I want to come back to at night is meditating at night before I go to bed. Lately, like the last couple of weeks, I've been on my phone actually till I've gone to bed. And I think I've read some research somewhere that says, you know, the last couple hours of the day, at least you want to put the phone away. You want to be away from technology and just in your own little calm routine. So one of my intentions that I'm holding everyone can hold me accountable to is to get back onto a meditation practice. And like Anne-Marie was saying earlier, you know, you don't have to be good at it. It can just be sitting literally and breathing and just allowing yourself to have some moments of calm and quiet. And I think that will help a lot with me just kind of feeling settled and easy at night, as opposed to anxious and like worried going to bed. Does anyone else have any ritual or habit that they're cultivating that they'd like to share or state out loud so we can hold them accountable to it?
Well, maybe just as we're starting to, you know, the last few minutes here, maybe we can talk about, I'm just trying to think of something that would be, that's on my mind that I'd like to share.
Kathy, do you ever, and what have you done, been really discouraged and thought, oh my God, there is no frigging way I'm ever going to do that? Or felt like you've really like failed at something and went, how am I ever going to get to the other side?
I mean, of course, but I'm okay. So of course, and
like, do you ever lose your confidence? Or have you ever lost your confidence?
yeah. But yes, but I think I think it's a mere age thing and of just doing things that that you just see yes, that there's a cycle, and it's hormonal. It is has to do with food. I mean, it has to do with your carbohydrate load. If you if you've over carbohydrated with lots of sugar and whatever, my sensitivity level, my awareness level through the years, I use that BLT, and don't throw that away lightly, because something like that is the beginning of where you go into meditations, where you become, where when I started meditating like 40 years ago, the technique was where you become the observer of you. So you're here, and that getting quiet, and eventually you start to see yourself, and you step outside yourself. So now you see yourself and you go, oh, there's Kathy being vain. Oh, there's Kathy being lacking confidence. Oh, look at me now being bossy. Or and the more you can get present, you start to observe. And I was watching this this webinar with Russell Brand, and it's a long story, but a friend of mine had to watch this for work, and he's doing a thing on addiction. And I don't know if you know the actor, but he's came out and he was addicted to all sorts of things, and he's got this great series. But the very first one, which is the only one I looked at, was about how you change anything in your life is you become aware of it. And if you want to change your habit to this, the phone, and being attached to the phone and getting up in the morning and looking at it and then the first thing you have to acknowledge is, I have an issue with this. And the only way you can acknowledge that is if you're aware of what you're doing. And the more you get aware of what you're doing and what the cause and effect of everything is, you start to see that, oh, when I eat too much sugar and I carbo load, I mean, I overdo these carbs for 2 or 3 days, Bob, by the third day, my confidence isn't the same anymore. I can't get up in front of the stage. I don't put my word, my brain feels a little foggy. All these things. Oh, I see. It starts with, I can't have 4 chocolate chip cookies or 2 drinks or whatever it might be. And as you start to see you in your world is, okay, that work. Okay, what else doesn't work with my confidence? Oh, when I'm around people that are really judgmental, and there's a group of people and they're always judging, and when I'm around these people, I don't really quite, well, maybe why am I picking my friends that are all judgmental? Or what else? Oh, when I start to focus too much on my highlights to my this, I now notice, I start to see, oh, these are the things that are sabotaging my confidence. So now how can I start to still do my hair? So, because I want to look good, but not get fixated into it's perfect, it's not perfect. It's like, and those are slight shifts that happen throughout the years that I now know when I start to now, I don't go from confident to no confidence. I go from confident to, oh, I'm now to about 70% confidence. What shifted? Oh, hormonally, I'm noticing that, not just, there's things that we can do. I'm not just talking about hormone replacement or whatever, but I can tell when my estrogen progesterone levels are slightly off. So anyway, I fine tune this. So yes, do I have it? Yeah, absolutely. But have I found ways that I adjust? So when I go on stage, this is the number one thing I do. And now, because I have to shut up because we have to go. The number one thing, when I go on stage, because that's the time when I feel there's 500 people out there, I'm going to go on stage. And I shifted from the time where I was nervous and whatever. People would always say, Kathy, do you get nervous when you go on stage? In the beginning, I say, yes, I do. Now it's now, oh, do I get butterflies? Do I feel like I'm adrenalized? Do I have all these feelings? Have I reframed it, and does it not bother me anymore? Because I'm concerned about you and you and you and you and everybody here. And when I project out and I say, no longer, so there's a thing where you're no longer concerned about this and me. I'm concerned about all of you. And when I change that energy, then my confidence is here, because there's nothing to not be confident. I just care about Anne Marie and Judy and Joellen and Paige and Katie and Renee and Jody, and and I'm concerned about you guys and how can I help you? And if I get off this call knowing that I helped you just in one little bit way, then my confidence is fine. But if I get on thinking, oh, are they going to like me, or did I do the right thing, or did I look good enough, or did I say the right thing? If I'm thinking about all those things, which I don't think of any of those things, then I'm not confident. So it's just shifting. And if I do that in every single thing in my life, then that confidence thing is not an issue anymore.
So what I'm hearing, Kathy, is you coming back to that notion of being present and really allowing yourself to sit in the moments that you're in and not get too much caught up in your head. Or if you do, you have tools and tips to distract your mind, trick yourself to get out of it, go work the energy through your body through movement, or do other things that allow you to bring humor and levity into situations and not take things so seriously. And I think those are amazing tools that we can all use moving forward, not just in times of uncertainty, but as we tackle different challenges in life that come up, as they inevitably do.
Every day. Every day.
So before we go,
it's called life. It's called life. And
called life. Before we go, can you share some of your social media handles and how people can get in touch with you? And you mentioned a couple podcasts, if you have a podcast channel that we can tune into.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing to do is just go to Kathy with a K, Smith.com. And at the bottom, everything's right there. So, Instagram's Kathy Smith Fitness, and, but the past, you can also see it's listed there. I just have a couple really fun podcasts coming, and fun, probably not the right word, informative, fun, interesting, but I love the podcasting, and I just keep growing the base, the topics. And I think everything that a lot of questions are being asked today, evening routines, keto diets, just everything is there. There's probably close to 100 episodes, a little less episodes now, but I would say that with a little extra time right now, especially if you're into the diet stuff, there's probably 3 really good keto podcasts. They're all about a half hour. Yeah. So check it out. But anyway, I love you all. It's been so much fun. And, we'll do it again sometime. But everybody take care. Be safe. Social distance. Get outside. Exercise. Do the things we know we should be doing, and love each other.
We're actually, this Zooming in Close series is continuing on Thursday with Jody, who's going to join us with a breathwork session and talking about breathing and how breathing can help with healing and grounding, and really setting a practice for us to be successful in life. And then next week we have a couple more. So our full schedule is on wildwomentribe.net. And we hope that you will tune in the future. It's really awesome that we can be socially distant and virtually connected and share space, hold space, and really appreciate and learn from each other. So have a wonderful rest of your day on Tuesday, and hope to see you again soon. All right, take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, tell me how to turn it off. No, I'm teasing.